Hey guys, I'm the Drink Pro. Today, I'm sampling Smoke Wagon Desert Jewel. Thanks everyone for joining me again for another Sample Sunday. Really appreciate the support. I hope you're subscribed. I hope you're sharing these videos. Join the Patreon if you want to be a part of the community. It's so fun to drink with you guys, enjoy these videos, and try new things. I love that people are sending me samples. It's a great time. This was actually sent in by an anonymous donor. You know who you are. Thank you much. Tip of the hat that I'm not wearing. I am looking forward to trying this product. There's been a lot of buzz in the bourbon community around the Smoke Wagon products. It's bottled at 52%. It's a 10-year-old whiskey. From what I've heard, it's a sourced product from MGP. MGP is the biggest distiller in the world, I believe, but certainly in the United States, that's constantly sourcing their whiskey. MGP is being sourced by all kinds of small distilleries that are trying to break into the market. The Nevada C Distillery, which is, I believe, the one making the Smoke Wagon Desert Jewel, is no exception. They're trying to do the same thing. And this whiskey actually won an award, for a gold award, in San Francisco in 2018. I won't get into this too much, but there are whiskey competitions, and some of them carry more prestige than others. The San Francisco one is often looked towards for some people. If you ask bourbon heads, they're going to have some debate about whether they give that any credence. I think it's just fun to know. It's interesting to find out what whiskeys are winning awards. And 10-year MGP juice is something I'm excited to drink anytime I see it, especially because I believe this is their low rye mash bill, which I tend to prefer. One thing I liked this anonymous donor did is put the open date on this bottle. It was opened 1/8/20, so it's a pretty recently opened bottle. That can definitely affect the flavor, as I've talked about many times, so I tend to prefer seeing what it's like very recently after being opened and then going back to it much later. Because it's a 2-ounce sample, I'll probably do that with this pour. Pour out, maybe half of it for the show and then taste the other half much later. Maybe put that in the Patreon. It might be a fun thing to do. We'll see. Typically, I've been pouring above the camera so you can see it. I forgot to do it this time. Sorry, guys. Oh, man. I really like the nose on this. It's a nice, soft caramel sweetness, maybe molasses. Definitely getting brown sugar and baking spices like cinnamon. Maybe some clove as well. I'm getting like a hint of a mintiness, perhaps, as well. Yeah, there's definitely a mintiness in this. The floral notes are present. They're not prominent, but they're there. Sweet and minty, though. Lots of different ways it's sweet and minty, but it's all a variety of that for me. I might get like a slight pecan note on this, but it's very slight. Mostly I get the sweetness and then a sharp mint note. It's very fresh, though. I really like the freshness of this nose. Usually when you get something that's this sweet and has this much baking spice, it's going to be very round, but not very sharp and fresh. And this kind of has the sweetness and the sharpness in equal parts, which I kind of like. The more I keep smelling it, though, the mintier it gets. It's almost like a mint gum. All right, let's give this a taste. Nothing offensive, but nothing is really standing out. Very balanced whiskey. Some people like a balanced whiskey and some people don't. It's very preference driven. I will say, because of the nature of this product, I think the Desert Jewel has a lot of variation in it. I have tasted a Desert Jewel product that was much different than this in my experience. It was phenomenal, but very different. That could have been a private barrel selection, I'm not certain. But this one is much more muted, not necessarily in a watered down way, but there's just more subtlety and more of a band of flavor that's pretty consistent throughout. So let's keep tasting it and see if we can't pull some of those notes out. The more I sit with it, the grains start to show up more and more. It really does make me believe that this is MGP. I've had MGP products, particularly younger MGP products that tasted like this, but this is supposed to be a 10-year product, so I'm a little confused by that. That doesn't jive with what I'm familiar with from other MGP tasting. There's a sharpness on the nose after tasting it and going back that I really can't place And it's a similar thing that I'm getting on the taste. There's definitely a specific sharp characteristic. It's not bright though. It's not like a fresh, citrus or a metallic. It's sharp in a very different way. It's hard to qualify what's going on with this sharpness, but it's unique. There we go. See, sometimes on the third taste, you really start to bring things out. That vegetal quality that I'm getting as mint is really coming out in the very front. It's almost floral and minty with lots of grain, very grain-centric. I'm getting a lot of grains on the taste in this. The mid palate is slightly bitter, and into the finish you get some of that wood tannin, some of that bitterness, but it's pretty quiet. There's definitely a woodiness in there as well that's showing up for me. As I keep tasting, I'm getting some black pepper on the finish, which I do like. Oh wait, when I go back to the glass after several tastes, I'm getting this really fun sweet sourness, like a sour apple. That wasn't there before, like a green apple note. Man, yeah, it's definitely got that grain forward front of the palate. That's something I get from a lot of MGP. Maybe others don't, but MGP is a notable distillery. If you know that's what it is, you can find it again and again once you've gotten the taste for it. So I'm pretty confident this is MGP distillate. I feel like it needs to be finished in a different way though. It's still a little quiet for me. I think it's a really good sipper. It's easy to drink. It'll stand up well to other whiskeys. And matter of fact, I think this would be a really good whiskey to have during a tasting, because there's so much happening in it that's so quiet. If you prime your palate with a whiskey that's, say, almost all rye and really bright and sharp, you come to this and it'll pop, other notes will pop in this based on what you've already tasted. Same thing if you taste something that has a little bit of mint in it. Maybe the mint will be quieter in this actually, and you'll find other notes. So I think this is a very versatile whiskey, but I'm not sure it would be my first go-to of the night or something I stick with all through the night, unless I just wanted a mindless daily drinker. If I'm doing something like that, though, I tend to not go for this expensive of a pour. I don't remember what the price point is, but this is not a budget whiskey. That bitter grain up front is really throwing me off. People really like that, I think, though. I see it in a lot of whiskeys, but it's not my favorite. Sweet grain up front. Slightly fruity mid palate with that apple that I was talking about before. That it's very subtle. Not a lot happening on the finish. Just so I can say I've done it, I'm going to add a touch of water to this. Maybe just 1 or 2 drops of water. I put a little bit of whiskey back in the glass just because I want to see what happens if I water this down a tad. We'll go with as little whiskey as in this. I'm actually just going to go 2 drops. We'll stir that around and see what happens. Ooh, okay. Got very caramely. Ooh, caramelly, is that how you say it? I don't know. Boy, the sweetness just pours out of this thing now. The baking spice and the caramel, and the mint's gotten quieter. The rye has started to show up. I was getting just more of a barley grain or a corn grain before. Now I'm getting definite hints of rye, even though I think it is a low rye mash bill. It hasn't changed a lot, except the sweetness becomes more prominent. Taste is very, very much the same. I think this is a whiskey that you definitely should find and try. If you have to buy a bottle of it, I would do it. It's worth having on your shelf. It's worth comparing with other whiskeys. Very price dependent though. I'm particularly price sensitive, so if I'm seeing this at 70, 80, 90 bucks, I probably won't do it. If I see this at 50 bucks, I would do it. It's a really easy drinker. It pairs with a lot of different things. And I do believe that there are other Desert Jewel bottles out there that taste differently from this. Based on my experience, I don't think this is a prototypical Desert Jewel pour. It's good, it's interesting, it's relatively quiet in all facets, so it's very balanced. If you like a balanced pour, this is a good pour for you. But it's not going to take you for a journey. But I think there are Desert Jewel bottles out there that will do that. And that's the thing you need to explore for yourself. So if you can find a pour of this at a bar, on a shelf, I definitely get a pour of it, try it for yourself. It's a good whiskey. There's no way around that. MGP makes good product. I don't know if this Nevada distillery has done anything else to it, or just taken it out of the MGP barrel and put it in their bottle. Whatever they've done, It's good stuff. I recommend it. But I wouldn't say I recommend it highly. I'm not jumping for joy over this port, but it's a solid thing to drink. I'm glad I've tasted it. I'm glad I've done a review of it. Thanks you all for joining me, and keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.